Hey, everybody, I'm Kevin Hoagland, and I welcome you to the On the Gold podcast, where our main goal is to help you become a better prospector and miner. And joining me today, as usual, is my co-host, and for some reason showing up as a guest today, Mr. Kevin Bell. So,
Nice.
Kevin, I guess, well, you told me you had a question for me, or a couple of questions based on, I think, part of what you saw or heard on one of the radio programs I did recently, and also some feedback for some new prospectors. So that's all yours, man. Ask away.
The simple question, I think we can just sum it up as, what is the one tool or the one piece in your kit that you don't leave home without?
Oh, man. So we're getting into my kit now. All right. Which kit? I have a dry kit. I have a wet kit. I've got a diving kit. I've got a detecting kit. Look, we all have the commonalities. We know that if we're always going to have our shovels, we're going to have our digging tools, our crevicing tools, and it doesn't matter if it's wet or dry. We're going to have our crevicing tools, just the tools, our gold pans, and different things like that. So, I guess you know what, I'm going to jump into. I'm going to do this one as an easy one. I'm going to talk about my detecting kit, because there is one tool, one piece of kit that I don't leave home without in my detecting kit. And then there's another piece of kit that I have that I don't leave home without it, and I don't care what I'm doing. So in my detecting kit, it's the swingy thingy made by Doc's Detecting by Greg. Yeah. I mean, I've had the swingy thingy through every iteration that he's done, all the way up to the new swingy thing Ultra, which I don't know where he's going to go from that. I mean, what do you say after Ultra? Who knows? But I'm sure if he comes up with something better, but I don't see how he could. It doesn't really matter to me what detector I'm swinging. I'm always going to use the swingy thingy. I don't care if it's the XP Oryx Gold at under 3 pounds, all the way up to my GPZ 7000. The swingy thingy is just one of these simple, ridiculously great pieces of kit. You clip it onto your pants. It holds your britches up while you're out there, and it's got a bungee cord system to it that, again, I don't care what detector it is. You go out with a 3-pound detector, and after a while, after a few hours, that thing's like swinging a brick. I don't care. I really don't care who you are. After a while, it's going to get to you, and I want to be out there for the longest time that I can. So, plus, there's another thing about it. It also helps me keep right on level where I need to be, because I know that if I'm in the middle of my swing, I've got this much, a little bit of pressure pressing down on my detector. When I get to the end of my swing, I'm putting a little bit more pressure to keep it flat on the ground, and make sure that I'm right where it needs to be. So I think because I've been using it for so long that I know that when I come to the right, I've got X amount of pressure I'm putting on. When I go to the left, I've got X amount of pressure I'm putting on, and it helps me. It helps me because I've kind of got that cadence that's going on, and so and great. And on a super heavy machine like the GPZ 7000, like I said, it's got a great suspension system to it, but it's big, it's bulky, it's all sorts of extra stuff. Don't mind it. Not the biggest fan of it. And where I've recommended the swingy thingy for years and years and years is not just for eliminating that weight and taking all that weight and putting it into the good suspension system, but dude, I'm getting older. You're getting older. Look, it hurts. There are times where I just hurt. My back hurts at times. I mean, I've only had it broken once, and all these other things that go along with it. By having all of that weight off of me, or dispersed and just kind of dispersed across the shoulders and everything else, it's painless. It's painless detecting.
So it also allows you to move from one detector to another if you are working an area and then switch. You've gone through with one and now you're going through with another.
Yeah, that's a real common thing for me. I'll hunt an area with my 7,000, and then I'll walk over and I'll clip the Velcro, let it come off, throw it on the whatever machine I'm going to use, and it just slips back on. Run it through, make the adjustment, and I like it now because I can adjust it here at my chest, and also down at the machine. And if I need to get away from it completely, like if I'm digging a really deep hole and I've got a target, I can just take the new one, the Ultra, pull up on it. It separates out from the bungee cord completely, and that way I can set it off to the side, put the coil down to where I can check my targets across the top of the coil and know when I've got that piece of gold in my hand. So, great piece of kit, something I just simply don't go detecting without. And I will tell you that, like in hiking into some areas before, I've actually taken like a number 2 shovel or a couple of number 2 shovels and wrapped the bungee cord around the shovel handles, and then brought the other side of the bungee cord up and hooked it up on the other chest, and that way my hands are free. And granted, I've got a couple of long handles sticking out in front of me, but if I'm doing with my shorties, my little short number 2s, and I do all of that, as long as I'm not trying to walk between a tree and pull the dog in the cartoon thing when he's running through the trees with a stick that's just a little bit too long and spins around the trees a couple of times, it works really good. So it's not, I'm not going to say it's something I take with me every time, but it's definitely detecting. That's it. Absolutely. The swingy thingy. So that's number 1. Now, what is the one tool that I never leave home without? The one thing that's in my kit, and I actually own 2 of these, and I keep one in my detecting and my detecting kit, and then I've got one in my general prospecting kit, which is separated into wet and dry and different things like that. Now, and it's the Falcon MD20. And I've talked about the Falcon probably to some people absolutely ad nauseum. Look, I got one of these things back. I don't even remember when it was. Back when it was the old MD10, and over the years now it's the MD20, which is more sensitive. It's easier to work with and do these things with. But it's a small metal detector is what it is. It's a 300 kilohertz detector, and then I'm looking around here. I do have one. I didn't even think about that because I did that radio show the other day, and it came to a conversation, and somebody said they'd never really given it a lot of consideration because they thought it was kind of a toy or something like that. They really didn't know what this tool is capable of.
Well, and they probably confuse it. They probably confuse it with a pinpointer.
Right, with a standard pinpointer, and I don't know how this is going to show on camera, but this is the MD20. It's in its sheath. You've got you've got a couple of balance. You've got a couple of buttons. I'm sorry, I'm going to try to hold this to where you can see it properly. Does it look like it's made kind of cheesy? Well, yeah. I mean, if you look at it, it's CPVC pipe, a couple of ends, some great cable, and I like it because this cable is really long and I can use the shaft with it and everything else. But those are accessories I really don't care about. I'm not going to get into that. But here's the thing about this. This is a tool that has found me an incredible amount of gold when I've been out doing other prospecting. The Falcon MD20 is a inexpensive, as far as I'm concerned, piece of kit that I don't go anywhere without because it's capable and it's beyond capable. When I'm hunting, if I'm out metal detecting and I start hunting around a mine site, and I find that one little piece of, and maybe a little piece of chispa or something like that, or a little quartz specimen that's got a little tiny bit of gold in it, and I hit it with the metal detector, then that tells me that there are probably thousands of other pieces laying around on that ore dump that are probably not detectable, and that's where the Falcon comes in handy. It's a 300 kilohertz metal detector. Yes, it's got a coil the size of it's a 1-inch coil.
Right.
But you're talking about 300 kilohertz. You're talking about something that is so sensitive to the tiniest piece of gold. And for those of you that have no idea what I'm talking about, as far as like what this thing's capable of finding, just do a Google search, Falcon MD20 test card, and what that test card has on it is a little bit of magnetite, a tiny piece of gold, smaller than half the size of a pinhead.
Right.
However that works out, and then some pyrite. And of course, it's never going to go off on pyrite because pyrite is not metal.
Right.
It's not metal. Iron pyrite is not iron. It's all the other stuff that goes along with it. The black sand, the magnetite, when I pull it away, it's going to make a sound. That little itty bitty teeny piece of gold is going to hit on that as I go to it. So if I'm on an old mine dump, or if I'm hunting around the mine and I find that one little specimen piece, that's all I'm really finding, if that one piece was all I found, a lot of times I'll switch from metal detecting to just hunting that ore dump or the side piles or whatever, looking for material that looks like that. And even if I'm just out exploring old mines and I'm working on the ore dump, and I've talked about this so many times, I look at the adit of a mine and I see, okay, I'm just going to make up colors. I see blue, red, green, and yellow. Well, now I start looking at the ore dump and I see blue, red, green, but I'm not seeing a lot of the material that's the yellow material, whatever color that really is. So I'll start looking at the ore dump and finding as much of that yellow as I can, and I'll test it as I'm going along. And 9 out of 10 times, I'm going to tell you that the yellow was the material that they were taking out. That's what they were working. So I'm going to take that material, and I'm just going to put it in the 5-gallon bucket. And like I said, I'll test this, but I'll sit down and put up my umbrella, sit in my lawn chair, and I'll just start checking that material with the Falcon. If it gives me a gold hit, it goes into one bucket. If it doesn't give me a hit, I just toss it off to the side. So, and again, I've talked about this so many times, I don't even know if it's worth talking about here because so many people have heard it, but those of you that have not, welcome. Welcome to Kevin's favorite rant about a metal detector. Yeah. It's an amazing machine. It's easy to set up. There's a lot of options for it. And I think where I hear a lot of people questioning it is, well, can I get a pinpointer? Can't I get just a regular pinpointer that I can do the same thing because I don't have to make adjustments? I basically press the button, turn it on, press the button maybe to ground balance it, or as you go into a hole or this or that. Yeah, that works for small pieces of gold sometimes. Depends on how small. And it does do a fairly good job if you've got something that's got some mass and some other things. But again, we're talking about a 300 kilohertz detector that will see pieces of gold inside of something or in a crack or a crevice or whatever. For me, it's mainly like the specimen pieces that I take all that material home. I run it through the crusher and in gravity recover all the gold. And I've gotten a lot of gold like that. And we're talking about pieces that will not go off on little disseminated pieces that will not go off on a pinpointer and definitely will not go off on a metal detector.
Right. And I've got to tell you, for me personally, if I happen to have crevicing tools in one hand, I've got my MD20 in the other.
Absolutely.
And that's and more realistic. It's not only horizontal in bedrock, but it's also in bedrock that's vertical. And
right.
it's hard to do that with any other tool than the MD20.
Right.
And
absolutely.
The other thing for me is I even added, when I'm doing the mine dump stuff, is I even set up a little holder from my MD20 that goes on a camera tripod.
Yeah, I've heard about this before.
So I can just swing the rocks in front of it, and if they don't sound off, you just chuck them, and then if you don't, you put it in a bucket. Yeah. Yeah, I was supposed to give you one of those, wasn't I?
Yeah, about a year ago.
Yeah.
Still waiting.
Yeah.
Still waiting, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, just for,
Anyway,
so
no, I got to tell you, the
I don't know,
MD20
does
is
that,
a great tool.
yeah, it is. It is a tool that is functional. And you know, there's nothing bells and whistles about the MD20. You've got a ground balance knob, you've got a sensitivity knob, simple to use. You run it up, and it starts making a lot of noise. You back it off until they both equalize out, and you just start hunting with it. And yes, you're going to have to change it around. You're going to have to make adjustments, because at 300 kilohertz, the thing is not going to stay just dead silent stable all day long.
Sure.
You run a half a dozen pieces of ore that has a lot of magnetic property to it, you're going to have to make an adjustment. But for what it does and the ability that this machine has, I don't care if it looks a little funky. You know,
Yeah.
I hate it when people have made the remark, well, it looks like it's made out of CPVC. Who cares? It doesn't matter what they put it in. It's what's inside of it that really,
Right.
really counts. And the coil wrappings and so on. And you've got an ultra sensitive, there's a band on it, and you can change it from really a super sensitive detector to where maybe it's not quite as sensitive. And to me, I find that really useful if I've got it in the water and I'm working around some of those areas where I'm getting like deposits of black sands, but I know that there's something in there. And what you were saying about the crevice tool, many times I've gotten into those crevices and I'm just bumping the MD20 back and forth as I go through with the crevice tool, breaking stuff
Yeah.
loose. And
Yeah.
of course, moving the crevice tool, I'm going to get a sound, but I'll pull across, and then I'll bump it a couple of times. And if I get that one sound going towards it, if it's a crevice that I can maybe don't want to open up or something, I can take just a suction line like with it, or a piece of hose, and just kind of bring it back up. Whatever, it doesn't matter. So that's the one machine. And I'm sorry, I went off on a little bit of a rant on this one, but that is the one machine that no matter where I go, I'm always going to have it. I use it while I'm sluicing. I use it while I'm panning. I use it while I'm out detecting. I just use it if I'm out driving around. If it's always in my buggy, it's always with me. I'm out in the middle of driving through the desert. I run across an old mine site, or just an old digging or something. You bet I'm going to take a look at it. I'm going to take a look at it. If I don't see any other claim signs or anything else around it, I'm going to get out. I'm going to look at it. I'm going to see what they were working, try to figure out what that material is, take the MD20 to it, hit it a few times. I get a positive signal, throw it in the back of the buggy, mark that spot on my GPS, and move on about my business. Crush it down, check it out, and I know what I got. So, invaluable tool? Absolutely.
Yeah.
And really not even that expensive. I don't even know what they're selling for.
Oh, they're probably
you
about
know what?
twice the cost of a pinpointer, of a good pinpointer.
You think so?
Yeah, maybe not even that much. So,
Let me look here real
know.
quick. But they're right around the 270, 280, 290 mark, depending
Yeah.
upon the accessories and different things like that.
yeah. So not quite twice as expensive as a good pinpointer.
Yeah, true.
So, yeah, and it's well, and I've noticed it's really hard to put my metal detector in my bucket when I want to take, when I want to go down and crevice. It's really hard to put that metal detector in the bucket, but that MD20 just drops right in.
Yep. So there you go. That's what's in my kit. I hope that answered it for you the best that I can. It's the two items in the kit, and I think that takes care of it.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, why don't we do a whole series on what's in the kit?
That'd be cool.
That would
think
be
it-
cool. All right.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. Hey, thank you for joining us today. I hope that you learned something from this. And, of course, if you have any questions, please remember to email us at KH or KB at prospectingedu.com, and we'll answer any questions that you have. Our goal, again, is to help you become a better prospector and a better miner. So until we see you the next time, hit the like button if you liked what we said. Leave us a comment. If you didn't like what we said, leave us a comment anyway. And if you subscribe to the channel or hit that bell so you'll get notified every time we come up with a brand new podcast. All right, folks. Thank you very much. We'll see you next time.
Take care, everybody.